trying to understand, but
I think if Burwell could be here, I mean, what I would anticipate, can't speak for them, but I mean, you know, they are doing, I mean, they probably want to emphasize they're doing a good job, that they're trying to they're staying on schedule, that they went into this project, you know, knowing it was going to be a tight schedule, and they really worked hard to keep it on schedule, and they may even stated that they realize it's a miss, but it was still work that had to be done. I mean, I think that's going to be the argument. But they submitted a bid for an amount, and it was based on documents that they developed their bid from, that they're supposed to identify these things.
and there's all sorts of little nuances. You know, another thing was that was the question that Paul read from the other contractor for Preston Construction was issued in the second addendum. There were 2 more addendum after that. So if that was unclear or the scope was unclear to them, they had plenty of time.
They had a lot of time
to ask a follow-up question.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
Mr. Payne?
Oh, I'd like to make a motion that we do not pay for this, that what they missed, and nothing against Burtville, but as far as fairness of bid transparency for everybody else, you know, I just don't think we should pay it.
We have a motion, we have a second. Discussion.
Well, if we hadn't used all our contingency money, they would have thrown that in there as contingency money, and
Yep.
that'd been exactly what would have
You
happened.
know, but it would still still had to have been approved, right? I mean, you know, it just really amplified now because of those unsuitable soils that exhausted the contingency.
And also another thing, and I'm sorry, I was talking.
no, that's okay.
And just, you correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but, you know, Todd stated, you know, used the term in good faith, they went ahead and moved forward because they had to maintain the schedule to keep this on schedule. So of course, he used the word good faith. They just moved forward and said, we'll solve this problem later so that they can stay on schedule. The only thing I'm going to say about that is yes, they're doing a good job, but still, it doesn't mean that the board should be accountable for an error that they made. They're a great partners so far. I mean, they're doing a good job.
I agree. I'll say that
It's
too.
about
They're doing a
accountability.
great job.
Don't know that the board and the taxpayers should be accountable for it.
Mr. Osteen?
Did you say they gone ahead and laid them footings and now they're wanting us to pay for it? Sorry.
That's right, the work is complete.
They had to do it.
They had to
get done to stay on schedule.
Right.
Because the schedule.
Everybody logged on.
You know, there's different ways to look at it. You know, if they had priced them on bid day, you would have paid that price, and, you know, your bid would have been 154,000, or, you know, whatever it was on bid day, it would have been that much higher. You could also use the logic, well, you know, you don't get it for free because you would have had to pay for it, but, I mean, I agree with, I mean, this was a bid to get this project, and, you know, nothing, like, we have not issued one thing, they're in place, we've not issued one drawing. And usually you could trace that back if the architect has to issue a drawing for the change, they're already in place and we didn't issue any kind of drawing. So, I mean, that, and granted, they got shop drawings from Southern Bleacher, and, you know, is that the point where they really realized that, oh, there is a column line there? I don't know. Wasn't part of that conversation, right? But so a lot of speculation.
How many yards of concrete are thinking to pour that in both places?
Well, I'll tell you, these footing, I'll argue a little, I'll complain a little bit, I guess. You know, and I'm not the engineer of record on these footings. These footings are 9 feet by 9 feet.
9 feet.
They're huge. They're 9 feet square.
Substantial.
They're substantial.
On perfect soil, right? We just,
Because we've got engineered fill now. That was a question I immediately came back with. Can we downsize and save some money on those footings now that we have engineered fill? Because we undercut and put that in there. The response we got was that uplift of those bleachers is what controls. So essentially those things are functioning
sells them
as
down.
big anchors,
Yeah.
which in a way, it's kind of nuts because you
gotta worry about
you
the
would,
people.
I would be shocked if you had a big enough wind that you wouldn't just shear those off at the connection before. Anyway, but I'm not the engineer, so I mean, we're sort of stuck with, who is the engineer of record on that. The rest of the project, our engineer controls that part.
And to answer your question, it's broken down at the change order. into cubic yards. I can get you that.
Well, I mean, 9 by 9, that's,
Maybe one time.
Yeah, the depth of those is what?
What?
Yeah. Yeah, but I think the depth is the same. 1.3, 15 inches deep.
Any more discussion? And Ginger is up.
Okay.
Hey, Ginger. Thanks for waiting with us.
Okay, let's vote, Jennifer, please.
so this is asking, just to be clear,
If you agree, but yes, if you
Okay.
disagree, but.
Yeah, we wondered about that.
You just read the non.
Actually, do not.
Thank you for clarification.
Thank you. Okay, we've got that one, just if you want to continue on, if you want to go back to the Lamar, or wherever you want to go from. That's fine, that's fine.
So security, last fall when we bid, I guess all the projects together, they're all kind of lumped together. We bid these things and tried to skin this cat a bunch of different ways. So schedule values from skilled services at that time was 1.39309 million. When we took out the high schools and bid it, there were two bids. American Construction was a low bidder at 1.474, and then 275 contract days. Skilled Services was at 1.846, 350, and 180 contract days. So American Construction is a low bidder on that. If you guys need to talk about, we've done this, we've talked about these jobs a lot. So happy to discuss it.
Mr. Riddle,
I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with the low bidder for construction on the high school.
we have a motion, we have a second, discussion. That's, go ahead.
One thing I want to say about, one thing we talked about was, and it may not even totally make sense, but what was their contract time? It was 275. It might be worthwhile if you want us to not haggle on the cost, but on the contract days, we might be able to talk to them and get that. Negotiate a little bit. We just kind of need to look at how the schedule lays out, like we were talking earlier. If it ends like at the end of school, but actually you did a little calculation.
I did a little math. I was trying to figure out their 275. If we issued a notice to proceed today, that would have them finished on January 2nd of next year. So I think what they're doing, not to put words in their mouth, but trying to think through it, is to hit it hard during the summer and then hit it at fall break and then finish up over Christmas break and turn it over.
So, and
There
that,
may be some strategy to that, but it is a little longer period. But I think it makes a lot of sense to me.
and that might be the extent of the negotiation is if we can, because obviously they're not going to mobilize today, if we got them, maybe to agree to finishing, over the break, then at least you'd be unencumbered by the time you start.
Yes.
In next January. So I think maybe that's,
So we can have that conversation.
and that might not be a huge amount of negotiation either, because, maybe a couple weeks off of that.
Just curious, will they do both projects together, or do one and then go move, or just?
Did you talk to them?
Just
Not sure.
We,
Okay, I'm just
we
curious
have not
more
talked to
than
them about the sequence of that, but I would think that, probably a lot like how Burwell is doing the athletics, that they're
different
they're
stages for
trying
each
to-
side.
trying to slightly stagger but run them at the same time. I would think that's how
What is our, do we have a plan in place, or what we're thinking of a plan while these projects is going on, where we're unloading buses and loading buses at? I mean,
Well, I mean, bus loading probably won't change.
your construction in front.
Yeah, but buses are still more up front. The kids may exit.
Well,
The answer is, we've got to have a schedule and when they're gonna do what to determine exactly what we need.
That's right. It'll be real close coordination between them and you guys and the principals.
I was just thinking that at Crockett, they could unload at the sites.
I'll defer to the principals and decide what to do.
Well, that may, you know, when we get Merit, if and when we get Merit officially on board, that may just be between us and you all and them, a conversation. I would imagine, because it's happened a number of times before, the state fire marshal will probably require us to show them a phasing sort of life safety plan. So Keith, that kind of start addressing what you're talking about and how so we need to show them how we're keeping kids and everybody safe
Getting out of the building.
and getting out of the building, but yeah. Right, so, and I think it'll take all of us, you know, we can't just totally dictate to Merit, you know, how they're gonna do that, so, you know, we've all got to partner with them in terms of how we arrive at that plan, and they've got to sign off on it before we can send it to Nashville and the state fire marshal to get their review and approval.
Yeah,
And I'll say this, is that, and probably to know if there's any special events, once we figure out what that start date is and what that schedule's gonna look like, if there's any special events that fall during that time period that we need to make them aware of, you might want to go ahead and ask your principals to be thinking about that in advance. Because we run into that all the time, whether it's testing, whether it's a graduation, whether it's, I don't know, spring fling.
I'll give you a really great example that we just recently did in Cotton County. So their girls made the state tournament for the first time for basketball, and they were hosting, you know, and we did this on the fly, so we turned it around within like 2 days. Got it to the fire marshal, we talked to the local guy first, got it in front of Nashville, the inspector in Nashville. But, you know, because of the construction, it was blocking some of the exits, that basically their gym was at half capacity. So they could only seat 600 people in there, and it holds about 1,200 or 1,100, whatever. And they wanted a one night, because they were hosting the regional.
a waiver exception for
Yeah.
one night.
And they gave them that exception, you know, when we found other, exits to get them out and sort of worked through that. And so everybody just worked together. But yeah, the more you get, to Todd's point, the more you can sort of schedule and be ahead of that.
Sure.
And, it helps. So anyway, that was just.
I mean, I think that will coincide also with sitting down with the contractor and finalizing the plan with school personnel there.
That's right.
Kind of make sure that we're hitting all the right spots.
Okay, any more discussion? Let's vote, please, Jimmy.
That was item 8C.
Yes. I'll agree.
Thank you.
Right, Jay?
Okay, Lamar?
Yep.
One bid on Lamar came in at 2.7, both at 2.75 million. There are two alternates, one for replacing existing hollow metal doors and windows with storefront. It was $637,000, and then car line canopy, extension of car line canopy with $282,400. So when I met with you guys at the board workshop in January, and I did some pricing exercises, calling the manufacturer of these materials using RS means, which is industry standard pricing, adding, 30% overhead, profit, insurance, all those sort of things. And I think it was maybe $150,000 at the time. So that was a much reduced scope. After that, we were asked to add, hey, let's replace the windows too. Hey, let's replace gutters. So there was a little bit of things added to that. The cost that came in is feel like we've been saying, we've said this a couple times on these projects. It's very, very high. So much so that I went back on the way up here and called the metal panel manufacturer, thinking maybe I had messed something up and misheard him, and called and verified that, the metal panel comes in, and he said, again, $5.8 a square foot. And it's tough to tell exactly how things are broken out in their schedule of values, but I think what they're quoting is close to $40 a square foot. So I've had brief conversations with the contractor, but I can't this time tell you what the discrepancy is. I don't quite understand it myself. It's much higher than anything I could have expected.
Mr. Flynn?
Make a motion, we decline the bids.
I did ask them, after speaking to Dr. Adams, was what can we do to reduce the scope down to just distill it down to just the building skin, right? The GFRC panels, can we just replace that, the sheathing, and the weather barrier, and they're working on that number too, which I'm happy forward to you guys.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second discussion.
Would you be able to check with the manufacturer and see if they have like a preferred installer list on those? Vendor that does installation on a regular basis for them. I mean, just like on these other projects, we've got things we need to do to move forward, but we can't do it at that price. If it's necessary, it needs to be done, but again, we're gonna have to find a little different way to do it. So,
We asked them for an install price. They could, so they probably do have, it's like that potentially.
Okay, any more discussion on the motion?
No, but I just want to ask a question. So that included the windows, like they want the windows replaced or
Where did we come up with the windows? Because this is new. I hadn't heard. We weren't talking about the windows when we was talking about the panels and stuff. Was this all the windows?
so
It's just the glaze. Actually, the glazing panels are failing, the seals are failing.
so is,
June, the 80% of the problem.
is there water getting in? Is there,
Yeah,
It's,
yeah, the seals are broken, so there's moisture getting in, they're fogging up because of the moisture getting in.
I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, kind of what started this was water infiltration at the building skin. Looking at the numbers that we were in conceptual design, let's take care of, the building skin here, water infiltration at the windows as well. I mean, it's all kind of,
and if we don't move forward with this, it's going to do more damage the longer it sits. Is that what I understand?
the worst part of it is the building skin. The windows are-
That's the first priority, is replacing that skin that's failing, because you're going to continue to get moisture in there. I think
That's the most critical.
And you asked for the person to give us a price on just the skin, just the skin,
Just to get the building watertight.
and he's gonna get back to you.
Yes,
When
we're
you
talking to him on the way up here.
When do you anticipate that, Dave?
Uh,
And are the gutters failing, or are they just a part of having to be removed and then put back up, or what?
that's kind of,
The gutters are failing.
well, more about their connection to the skin, and removing them and being able to put them back up. The skin is replaced.
They were failing in
Places.
Chad?
It's difficult to answer yes or no because there's so many different gradations. Of certain parts it's failing, you can see it dripping down the building face. Sometimes some places it's fine.
Can I ask that we table this and get more information when we hear some more before we make a motion on doing nothing?
Well, we don't want to bid.
Well, I understand, but I mean, he's working to get a figure of what it's gonna cost to do just the panels and not the windows.
But they're gonna have to send out another bid though before we get it finalized.
Let's just make negotiating with the contractor that's already.
So that's why I say, let's just hold off
I
On
do
any-
expect it this week.
until we hear that before we make a motion. I mean, I'm against it too, but I want to hear this other price
So-
first.
You're doing an amendment to his motion, is that what I'm?
I mean, whatever
He
it
said
takes.
table.
Right.
With it on
I'm
the
asking to
table.
table it, and that's automatically voted right now.
I mean, isn't the other alternative is if you strike the bid down, then you're starting, and the timeline extends to a month plus, right? Does it make sense to wait for a couple of days just to get the whole
Yes, I do.
information? Maybe you end up striking it anyway, but
Then you still have that option, if the information comes to you.
We can make a decision on our
I believe it's
workshop.
agreeable that you did not reject the bid. You're not accepting the bid by not taking action, you're not accepting the bid.
Mr. Boyd, have you been able to speak with? potentially
I have not, on that issue, I have not spoken with
I
Scott.
will chime in, yes, I have.
Could you share with us the legality of that, or did he,
Well-
would we wait to talk to him maybe?
Yeah, well, if we could, let's just get his motion, then I'll address that.
Thank
Or do you want to withdraw your motion and not do it? Okay,
Second.
all right. Let's vote on the motion as amended to continue or to table this bid.
Now what? You're gonna have to explain. This is
All right.
where
Did-
we,
Yeah, if you,
This is key.
if you want to,
this is keys. We
Right.
wanna keep it going.
right,
Okay.
if you want to table it,
Let's wait
Table
to see.
it.
we're gonna negotiate with the
I
contractor,
like
see
it,
how,
yeah.
how tight we can get that price, just for the
Alright, thank
critical
you.
bill,
It carries with one no.
okay. Now let's vote on the actual motion to turn the
No,
bid down,
we're
right?
done. We
No.
tabled it.
We don't go back.
The motion to table was approved, so.
Okay, okay.
Can I ask a question for clarity?
Yes, sir.
The other amounts you gave for the windows and the awning, are those included in the 2.75 million, and but they were ads? There was a
asked,
statement at our last conversation that they could be deducts, so
Yes, sir.
meaning that could be the total of 275, and then those could be the amounts to deduct if you didn't accept them, but
Yes, sir.
they were ads,
We
alternate
clarified that.
ads.
It would have made a lot more sense to me than just how the costs were working out, but
Okay,
it's in addition to.
okay.
So,
Yeah, we asked if they could burn that.
It's, so that total, if we're to accept all of those options, it would have been close to 3.75.
And how, I mean, how old's that building? When was it built?
I'd say they're very early nineties.
Let's say it's 20, almost 25 years old.
And it's never had nothing done to it.
Okay. To answer your question, Whitney, I did speak with Scott. I called him earlier and he called me back. I did explain to him our situation on the safety. He feels like there is a way, yes, that Bradley County had done something similar to this. He wants to confer with them first, and then he'll get back with myself or Jerry, hopefully tomorrow, so. But he says that he feels like, yes, there is a way we can do that.
Saving effort on these projects, and
Right.
we'll have some control.
And that's only on the middle schools, not the high school. And Asbury, right, so forth. But hopefully Scott will let us know something in a few days. Yeah, what legally we can do. Is that all, Jake?
Yes, sir.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Sirs? Good to see you, Tom.
You didn't get to say much, Tom.
They just made me drive them up. We'll have the own contractor agreements.
Thank you. Sounds good. Thank you all again.
Thank you again.
See you again, man.
We're all done. You want to disconnect?
Goodbye.
Bye, Ginger.
Bye.
Go to.
Okay, next is the Gray house demolition, I guess, Jared, you wanna, if there's,
Yeah,
I
we,
don't know if there's any
got
additional
the bid,
information or not.
um, next time. We again made the recommendation that we accept the low bid. I believe it was Bryant Properties. Was it 200 or 24,232?
Mr. Flynn,
Make a motion, we accept the bid, the low bid of Bryant Properties, 24,232.
Second.
discussion. My only question is, Brad, do we have a place where can we draw money from, or what's?
His target date to be finished is 5/17.
What this will mean is I'll amend, bring you a budget amendment, your ending amendment, where we have a lot of cleanup. I'll move money.
So we do have the funds if it is voted
Yeah,
for.
it'll be shifted most likely from your 71,100, your education category.
I would anticipate it might be a little longer, but it won't be June 30th, so it'll be done, I'm sure, end of May.
Not specifically fund balance.
We can do that
This
if
time
we
we
don't
don't
want,
need to.
if we don't want to shift it from another category, then, I would just up the fund balance.
But then we would have to get pre-approval from.
Oh, yeah, the amendment will require county commission.
Unless you took it out of the maintenance budget. Do it.
Well, if he moves money out of category, we still have to submit a budget amendment to the commission for approval.
Yeah, if they wanted to be,
Difficult.
yes. Okay, I will make it work in the maintenance category, because
Yeah,
Let's figure
The
it out.
board has full control of that type of event.
I will call this gentleman tomorrow. Well, I'll let y'all vote first, but
Any more discussion?
Chairman, I call for the question.
Let's vote, please, Jennifer.
Everybody knows how I'm going to vote. I'm gonna show you right
And
now.
that's okay, Keith.
Absolutely, but
Still love you.
Carries with one no.
that's me. All right, I'll call him tomorrow morning and let him know.
thank you.
Thank you. You wanna, are you,
I
you and
might have
Jerry
a
doing the
couple other
buses, or?
things.
Make sure Keith's not in the building when you all start.
All right, next is the approval to declare one activity bus and two ARD buses out of service, that's surplus. We have a recommendation from Mr. Pointer.
Make a motion that we accept one activity bus and two large buses for service.
Second, discussion.
Now, letter F is we're gonna let the Washington County Sheriff's Department have buses. Is this part of their buses? Is
Yes.
their buses? So I amend the motion and bring F into it too and say school buses to Washington County Sheriff's Department for $1.
Is that two different?
It's the same thing. We got to declare
It
them
has to
surplus
be
first.
officially
and then-
declared surplus before you can take it.
Okay.
All right, they don't, I withdraw.
Any more discussion? Let's vote, Jennifer, please. Thank you.
Carries all agreed.
Thank you. Now, approval to sell out of service surplus school buses to the Washington County Sheriff's Department for $1.
I'll second that.
Based on,
Motion.
You want to put that in the form of a motion? Okay, I mean,
I will, yeah, I'll put it, let the Sheriff's Department have it.
okay, Mr. Pointer seconded.
based on the removal of the portable suit, correct?
As a stipulation, right? Any more discussion? Let's vote, Jennifer, please. Discussion. 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 Thank you. Let's vote, Jennifer. Next is the discussion for the mower. Let's vote, Jennifer. Next is the discussion for the mower. Let's vote, Jennifer. Next is the discussion for the mower. Let's vote, Jennifer. Next is the discussion for the mower. Let's vote, Jennifer. Next
But is it truly savings of money or doing anything for it? Is it truly savings of money or doing anything for it?
I have minimal money. I have minimal more efficiency. I have maintained efficiency. This is the way it's going to work really quick. This is the way it's going to work really quick. That is good. This is the way it's going to work. Well, but it's a matter of this. Well, but it's a matter of this. But there, I want to, if y'all look at it, but there, I want to, if y'all look at least this, I'm paying, if y'all look at $45,000 paying, if y'all look at $45,000 how many mowers paying, see how many mowers paying, see how many mowers paying, a mower's $12,000, see how many mowers paying, a mower's $12,000, we go on a rotation, a mower's $12,000, we go on a rotation, every 2 years, the mower goes out of warranty, every 2 years, the mower goes trade. I mean, is it mower goes trade? They a chance is it that we can trade? They a chance is it that we can trade? They a chance is it that we can sell it on have to sell it off to sell it on have to sell it off to sell it on have to sell it off. That's where we're bound. Limited. That's where we're bound. That's not limited. That's where we're bound. That's not limited. 45,000. That's not limited. 45,000. So the mowers, 14. So the mowers, right there, everyone that's got 1,400 hours, no warranty. That's everyone that's got 1,400 hours, no warranty. That's everyone that's got 1,400 hours, no warranty. That's everyone that's got 1,400 hours. Logan was saying that we buy hydraulic pumps, cost Logan $1,000. Hydraulic pumps. Number one, hydraulic pumps is gonna cost number one. Okay, you can replace the pump for $900. You can replace the pump for one line, $900. You can replace the pump. It will have to replace it. So, I honest to God think it's cheaper for us to home. So, honest to God think it's cheaper for us to home. So, at least $45,000 a year. They buy 4 mowers a year. They buy 4 mowers a year.
My question is, no matter what happens to these mowers, they would be, they would have to replace it. So
It's under warranty with that company. It takes a long time to give us it takes a long time to give us it takes a long time to give us a general maintenance. General maintenance.
So there's no wear and tear showing anything, if the tire is wore out, you don't have to replace the tires on the lease agreement.
No, we have to take care of tires, blades.
I mean, what is it come to tell us that you're gonna have to pay X amount of dollars to replace a lot of these parts on this, to replace a lot of these parts on this, to replace a lot of these I still like saying it. I still like saying it. I still like saying it.
I understand what you're saying about mowing, but if you do line it up, then we're gonna be in the same ballpark. So if you do line it up,
Well, they wore out,
they'll never sell it.
we did buy things out,
They'll never sell it.
we buy things out. I run it in 4 years, and I'm paying $45,000 a year, I'm paying $45,000 a year.
The 3 year lease is 3,400.
So that's another thousand.
But the advantage is you got the equipment. The advantage is you got the have all the program boards. Problem, have all the program boards. Several circuits you have. You're not gonna have anything left anyway. You're not gonna have anything left anyway. Go get mowers, so you've got mowers basically, go south from the mower, go get it, you've got.
You're gonna have 3 years. You're gonna have mowers, you're gonna have. You're gonna have 3 years. You're gonna have mowers, you're gonna have. That's what you're gonna have. 3 years. Cause right there's what, how many hours is on that? Cause right there's how many hours is on the bud deals itself? How many hours is on the bud deals itself? Which one is the bud deals itself?
We sort of just like your opportunity just to try it out. We sort of just like your not in just to try it out. We sort of just like I'm been with them for 10 years, 20 years. Just like I'm been with them for I call it 20 years. Let's go to the place.
It is Tri-State, it's all size, it is 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 it is Tri-State, it's all size.
A good deal, everybody. Okay. A good deal, everybody. Okay. A good deal.
All right,
Item H,
transfer general fund.
item H, transfer general fund. Item
Yeah, it's just simply
authorization.
if you have the authorization, we're authorization. If you have the authorization, we're authorization. If you have the authorization, we're authorization. If you have the authorization, we're Safety net allows up to detail, the safety net allows up to detail, the safety net allows up to detail. It's just really a proactive thing. It's just really a proactive thing. It's just really a reactive thing. Let's
Make the motion we move to allow the cover education will fall in the reimbursements of all the cities, motion will fall in the reimbursements of cities, motion will fall in the reimbursements of cities,
Motion have a second. Motion have a second. Motion have a Thank you. Okay, Mr. Board, purchase orders. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Board, purchase order.
These were added after the workshops, so we were after these workshops, this is the annual subscription. This is the Lexi Learning digital. This is the Lexi Learning subscription online platform. This is for all online site. This is on the page. This is for all online site. This is on the navigate to this out for all online site. Budget. Can we group these? Ken, I would recommend. Ken, I would recommend.
I move for approval of the purchase order. 23 Sandy Let's Learning Systems. Second.
Discussion.
Let's Learning Systems.
Thank you.
Next item is more instruction materials. Next item is more instruction materials. Licenses for digital textbooks and subject elementary. Licenses for $7,200. $80.
What takes the difference?
It's also, it's also, it's the same thing, separate for, it's the same thing, separate for, it's the same thing, it's a litter set for, it's the same thing, it's a litter set for, as a target, it's a litter set for, as a target school is out there, there's additional requirements, as a target school is out there, there's additional requirements, as a target school is out there.
Make a motion that we approve purchase order 2219. Make a motion that we approve purchase order discussion. We approve purchase order discussion. We approve purchase order discussion. We approve purchase order discussion.
Items. Structure. Again, this is an online digital platform structure. This is the assessment piece that all of our grades through to the assessment, that all of our dues, benchmarking, that all of our dues, three-type benchmarking, there's other resources, three-type benchmarkers. You may have heard some talk about three-type benchmarkers. That may have heard us talk about three-type benchmarkers. That may have heard us talk about six, the budget on six.
Move for approval of purchase.
Second.
Move for approval of purchase.
Second.
Move for approval of purchase.
Next item is construction materials. This is next item assigned is construction material annual subscription assigned license for generation maintenance, science materials, construction materials, maintenance, science materials, and construction materials, amount of $10,475. Amount of $10,475.
Make a motion that we purchase order. Make a motion that we purchase order.
Second.
Make a
Discussion.
Second.
Discussion. Next item, purchase order 2220. Next item, Gallaudet Social Studies curriculum. Next item, Gallaudet Resources, Social Studies curriculum. Gallaudet for the annual subscription under $12,000. For the annual subscription under $12,000. Purchase order 2220.
Second.
Discussion.
Second.
Discussion.
Second.
Discussion. Next item is, for purchase. Next item is an ISM grant, STEM purchase. High school grant, STEM purchase. Innovative school model grant, Sulphur Springs, you participated on model grant. It's, you participated on model grant. Platform, it's, looking at us, just for more detail, platform provided, looking at a variety of detail, kids, looking at a variety of detail, software, STEM, software, STEM, software,
purchase order 2220.
discussion, subject for late discussion, subject for late discussion, subject for late discussion, subject for late discussion, consideration of FY 25 budget. Consideration. Yes, sir. Budget consideration. Hard copy in front of you. We request hard copy for consideration. We request hard copy for consideration. We request hard copy for consideration. We go with the option that is this for the option that is this for the option that is this for the recommendation option plan.
I make a motion that we accept the budget, the school nutrition budget, budget, exceed the budget,
The draft date. You have a second? Discussion.
How many schools is not gonna get to eat free? How many schools is not gonna
Just
get
for
to
clarity,
eat free?
every student,
How many schools is not
just
gonna
for
get
clarity, and so the schools that involved and so the school that data that she was using for next year's application. So that leaves us next year's application, as you can see, $5. So that leaves us next year's application, as you can see, $5. So that leaves us next year's application, as you can see, $5. Maybe one station. Maybe one station. Maybe one station. How much for, how much for, how much for, Okay, this is the actual bills that have been signed into the law by the government. Bills that people have dubbed or claimed a teacher dubbed or carried a teacher dubbed or carried just the first, I guess, conversation. Board has had a chance since the governor signed these bills have passed both houses, chambers. These bills have passed both houses, chambers. These bills just for clarity and chambers modification clear existing law. Chambers allows clear existing law. School staff that authorized to meet certain criteria. School staff could be authorized to conceal carry a firearm. Could be authorized on school grounds, but on certain places on school grounds, but on certain places on school grounds. But it has requirements that they must meet, but you include requirements that they must meet, but you insert requirements. I'm just going to read down just to highlight. But you insert and it is specific down just to highlight. It states faculty or staff. So even though people have identified it as teacher period law, some identified it as it applies to all staff. Faculty applies to all staff. Specified that it must conceal and specified that it must limits the type of firearms. It also makes firearms that if they have a reason that they cannot carry a firearm, they have a reason that they cannot run a firearm, they have no reason to carry a firearm, it has to stay down. There must be a written authorization by the director of schools, by the director of chief or the sheriff, county administration. So three individuals have to approve. So three for an individual that's qualified to for an individual to be able to carry in addition to other qualified individuals to be able in addition to other qualified individuals. And you know, it also in addition to says that they in addition to the initial 40-hour basic training, in addition to the initial 40-hour basic training, the individual must also complete a minimum of 40-hour post-commission training with specific to to retain the officer. So there's a requirement of this level of training. There's a requirement of this level. I would go out and say there's a requirement. In addition to, I would go out and have the sheriff be a part of it. The approval process has to share. The sheriff would also have to facilitate the person. The sheriff access this training. Access this training. So it's a high level training for police officers. And then also, as I mentioned earlier, identify certain places as I mentioned earlier, auditorium, stadiums, where schools events are taking place, certain meetings, clinics, hospitals, things like that. Certain meetings, clinics, it's not just everywhere. It's not just everywhere. The other piece that is highlighted is makes it confidential and not open to public inspection. So theoretical, just on the superintendent, theoretical, to the school sheriff, theoretical where the sheriff, theoretical father, I would say that extends to the SRO. I would extend to the SRO. I would she's not the SRO. And then they added some language, the LEA, and they added claims for monetary damage that are rightly so another thing that's important that needs to be pointed out. They also have to pass mental health screening, they have to pass psychological screening, in addition to psychological screening, in addition to
Tennessee that wanted to reverse the role. Tennessee that wanted to
You don't need a motion, I just, no, I need a motion, I just, understandable, there's a lot of questions, the things that I hope that we can continue to clarify, that is there are several things to clarify, is there are several Mike carrying firearm campus and not be an active duty law enforcement officer assigned by the sheriff, an active duty that's law enforcement officer assigned by the sheriff, an active duty or the other officer assigned by the sheriff, an active duty or the other officer assigned by the sheriff, an active duty or the other officer assigned by the sheriff.
Smart on our behalf, make policy that we're only going to allow 3 of those people to be in our schools with a gun, in our schools with a gun.
I think I anticipate, we're going to the season after a legislative season where there have been law changes that impact policy, where there should be TSBA, they provide sample policies to align with the law. I think there will be sample policies similar to something sample what you're saying. So I think we can continue to have these discussions and see what kind of discussions, see, some boards, some Tennessee have already publicly declared, some Tennessee have already publicly declared they're not going to allow it in their schools. Some boards are still like where our board currently is, still learning more about the laws, we're discussing all of the pros and cons of the laws, we're discussing all of the considering the laws until they make the final considering the laws.
Can we put this on work opportunities for further now and then everybody can research it. Now and then everybody can research it. Since you can sit down and make sure you can talk to you can sit on it. Make sure you can talk to us, do it, you know.
Yeah, we can make sure further discussion.
I would like to say, any good guy with guns, right situation, any good guy with guns is a good right situation, any good guy later would fix some of the problems we have in Tennessee society, fix some of the problems.
But I don't mean to one of them stop. He did say something. I don't mean to earlier that he did say. I never thought of it that way. I never thought of it that way. Being in that agency,
Being in active shooter training, we're trained, you know, when we arrive at an active shooter anywhere, but especially when we arrive at an active shooter, as an example, for school, since that's what we do. If you go into a school and active shooter situation, if you go in, we're trying to go in and neutralize that problem. And we're looking for a person with a gun. And we're looking to put a gun in select people's hands, and they have guns when the police arrive. The SRO's already there. They may know the person that we've been on. And we're looking for a guy with a gun, and that's a guy with a gun. We're looking for a guy with a gun, and that's a guy with a gun. We're looking for a guy with a gun, and that's a guy with a gun. That scares me to death. That scares me to death.
Well, as a retired teacher, this would terrify me. I'm sorry. This would terrify me. I'm sorry. This would terrify me.
And just to clarify, I'm totally pro, just to clarify, I am like normally arm everybody in the world, but I live this, but we've done scenarios of this type, in training, and it is, there are more, in my mind, cons than there are pros. We have great SROs in these schools, and they are well trained, and they are armed, and every person that you put a gun on, you're bringing another gun to the situation. Even us as officers, if we go on a domestic violence call, we're bringing our gun to the situation where there may not have been a gun. So you're introducing a gun to that situation. If you get in there, there's a fight, teacher it up, and by chance it comes out of the holster, you've got a bunch more problems.
So I'm for putting guns on everybody in the right situation. But I personally do not feel that this is the right situation.
Mr. Holstone?
I have no more questions for it. I'm ready to propose that this board stands against this and vote on this tonight. And if people aren't happy and want to table it, okay, but I'd like to make a motion that we do not support allowing the faculty, whomever, to carry guns in Washington County schools.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Well, I'll second just to see how people feel.
All right, we have a second discussion. I guess my only thought is, you know, me personally, I'm like, kind of like Mr. Boyd, I would like to hear everything before, you know, before this group or myself was, you know, to do anything. Like I said, when Mr. Walters put that in a perspective I never thought of, it just, you know, I can see the danger, but again, that's my opinion.
Well, and I'll also say, teachers have to go through enough training as it is, and to put 40 more hours on them a year, and it be post, and I am under post, and that's what I train under, for it to be post, it's very well mandated, it's not easy, and I'm not saying that these people can't do this and be responsible with it, but that's just a lot more to put on their plate, and it's a daily stressor whether they want to know it or not.
They have a lot on their plate to begin with.
Mr. Holstone?
If we were, we were in a county that was having problems getting SROs, and they were gonna need 15 minutes travel time to get to the school, I can understand them wanting to do it, but not us. That's why I'm making the motion.
But as long as we are not approached by Mr. Boyd, who has had a conversation with the principal and the sheriff, this is not something we have, that's when we actually take action and vote on it,
That's the way I
correct?
took it.
My understanding is you would not vote on it. It would be the authority between me, the principal, and the sheriff.
Yeah.
It's
You
not
know, the way the law is written.
Right.
But if a board passes a policy that either requires another step that doesn't interfere with the law, or just says it's a permissive law and we're not going to utilize this law, we're not going to allow it because it is permissive, then that's where the board would have a decision.
So, and then TSBA, like, we will start
TSBA,
seeing some
right.
policy from that.
I expect that, because you know your other boards, your fellow board members across the state, they're gonna be asking these questions to TSBA as they expect them to answer, because you all are members of that organization.
Okay,
I'd
you
like to hold off. I mean, I don't want to vote against him, so, and I made one motion tonight to table. You want to table this? And
want to put that in form of motion?
put it in a form of a motion and we table it unless there's some more yays and nays on it before we make any kind of
Yeah, I think Mr.
decision.
Boyd can shed more light on it as he hears more before we take action. I mean,
Is that an
that's my
amendment?
opinion. He
I'll
put that, I just
put
wait
the
for him to
formal
say it.
amendment to table the motion till we,
I'll rescind my second then, and wait and get more information.
Okay, well, if you rescind that, we don't need
Right.
it. We don't need it unless somebody else wants to second his motion.
No, I'm willing to listen to more. I'm pretty adamant against it, but I'm willing to take in all the.
Right, and that's my way, kind of way
Yeah,
I feel.
I feel that way too.
Is it-
Well, and I have total faith in you. Is this something that would take it off your shoulders if the board did something like that? Because I don't want you to have that full
Well-
weight, and I know you've got the third, you're one.
It's I guess you would call it, it's a tribunal with the three, but one of those is a subordinate to me.
Right.
So I understand whatever direction there would be some pressure, even if I would not directly and intentionally apply it, there's some just
I
natural
understand.
pressure there.
Well,
And then the sheriff, he has said, certainly we're gonna follow the law, that's non-negotiable, and we would follow the process.
right. Okay.
So I would take it very seriously. I will say, me personally as an educator, you know, my response to even the sponsors of this bill who were in my former district continue to be the legislative representatives of those districts, to these individuals was the same comment, that I believe it should be a qualified, active duty law enforcement officer should be the ones that carry firearms in schools environments. I think it's a lot to put on educators.
Yeah, it is.
I appreciate the flexibility that the legislative body has given local boards,
Right.
because everybody's needs are different. There are communities that, you know, because of resources, they do have different struggles.
Correct.
In providing that flexibility, I think for local decisions, I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
But in Washington County, we have an outstanding support and relationship with our sheriff's department. He's continuing to work hard to even increase and improve but you know, so I would want to exhaust those options before we looked at approving some of our own personnel, who their focus, of course, is always safety, but also the both mental and academic growth of each child every day.
Yes, sir.
And they should be focused on those things, and to add that extra burden of carrying a firearm, even if it's voluntary, it does add an extra, and there's so many other variables that can go
Yes,
on.
sir.
So my response is going to continue to be, I prefer increasing the number of qualified active duty law enforcement officers that are highly trained specifically to be an SRO to carry firearms in a school environment.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, is there a second?
To table.
No, on the original motion.
Oh, okay.
She withdrew.
She withdrew.
She withdrew.
You want to withdraw your motion or no?
Nope.
Okay. All right, hearing no second, motion will fail. Okay, additional items, a couple more purchase orders, Mr. Boyd.
Yes, sir. These purchase orders came in after the agenda was published originally, and so these weren't eligible to even be considered to be on consent agenda. They're a discussion item. But you see, this is a specific piece of equipment purchasing through the, ISM grant funds through Sulphur Springs Elementary. It's a laser device, and just requesting purchase, authorization to purchase, because it is $23,702.
Mr. Riddle?
I'll make a motion to approve purchase order 2284 laser.
Second. Discussion? Let's vote, Jennifer. Mr. Flynn, second.
Is there two of them?
Yeah.
There's two of these, and that should be a requested bid, because there are two printers that are combined for a price that exceeds $25,000.
It says it's sole source.
That's the high school, that's the Perkins
Yeah,
conversation.
I'm getting it mixed
At
up.
the high school level for Boone and Crockett. Yeah, this is a different
I'm
item.
getting it mixed up.
Yes.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, let's vote, Jennifer, please.
Voting's open. All agreed.
All right. Thank you.
The next item is intervention materials. Request to purchase intervention materials in the amount using available ESSER dollars, the ESSER 3.0, that to purchase these materials for $68,457.40.
Mr. Walters?
I move that we approve purchase order 35482 using ESSER dollars.
Have a
Second.
Discussion? Let's vote, Jennifer, please.
Voting's open. Agreed.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Boyd, consideration to adjust all K-8 school start times 8 to 3.
Yes, sir. You know, we had discussed this in the workshop, just as, you know, we were asking board support and authorization so we can start the communication to move the remaining elementary schools, K-8s, to, I believe there's
5.
5. Yeah, so there's Boones Creek, Ridgeview, Gray, Lamar, and Grandview. thank you. So the other half of the K-8s to the 8 o'clock start time. So we would have all K-8s at an 8 a.m. start time, and our high schools would remain at the 7:45 start time.
Mr. Flynn?
Make a motion, we adjust all K-8 schools' times to start at 8 a.m. to 3 p.m.
We have a second? Second. Discussion.
No problem with after-school care or before-school care for the people to be able to drop their kids off and stay. Will them times change, or will them times be different now? With us not starting school till 8 o'clock?
They'll move in the morning to 30 minutes earlier than what they do now. Most of them open the door at an 8:30 start time, no later than 8 o'clock. Some of them as early as 7:30, I believe. So I think we'd kick that back to 8 o'clock or to 7 o'clock. Give the parents an extra hour if they need to drop off before school begins.
Is that SACC?
Yes.
You're speaking of?
Yeah,
Yes.
just to be able, for the kids, parents that's going to work early, that drops their kids off for that after-school, or that before-school care, or whatever you want to call it. I just need it to be the same.
Yeah, it will mirror what we do at the other already 8 to 3 schools. Will be the same times.
Yeah, if anything, it'll allow them to
Get more time.
drop their child off earlier. And then the after-school care will remain the same.
Right. I think it stays open until 6, no
Yeah.
matter what.
Yeah, either whether it was a 3:30 dismissal or 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock was
6 o'clock was,
when
yeah.
it, SAC, the school age care, closed. So it runs, and then our partners, with Coalition for Kids, where they're also partnering it, they follow the same timeline.
Any more discussion? Let's vote, Jim, please.
Voting open. All agree.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Boyd, consideration of 5-year educational capital projects planned FY '25, through FY '29.
Thank you. So you got the slide deck? Thank you. So this is, what you have here is what was approved last June. What we're working from in this fiscal year, and as we're trying to get to the point we can put this in front of the commission. But I just wanted to run through in 2024, you see in green, or highlighted those in green last year to identify those expenditures that are more or less set. We started with the annual payments for the new Jonesboro School after we moved in and occupied in January 4th, 2024. And you see those annual payments carried out over the next several years. Johnson City Schools, the payment to Johnson City Schools is coming out of the educational capital funds, and that's how much they're getting annually beginning once we occupied the building. And you see the technology, it was technology, but we shifted this year to shift that to the technology security equipment. So 600,000 of that was approved to go towards the $1 million plus, over $1 million of security technology upgrades we're doing at all schools. The other portion we paid for out of ESSER funds. So, and then your school buses, we had scheduled 870,000. We did not expend that much. We adjusted our bus schedule, and we did not expend 870,000 on buses. So it was just under 600,000 that we received approval and authorization to proceed. The 3.5 million for school security updates, you're all aware, we just approved those high schools, and that'll be approximately, one half of that amount as we move forward with the 2 high school upgrades. But that will not be probably realized or debited until next fiscal year. So actually what we'll propose is it'll just roll into FY '25, that amount. So essentially it'll go into the fund balance for the fund, but it'll be carried through in next fiscal year. The school playgrounds, we did Fall Branch in Sulphur Springs. We expended 297,000 of that. So, the decision that we'll do next in discussion You know, do we continue with putting the 300,000 for upgrades next year in 2 more schools? That's been our steps the last couple of fiscal years. So to a final 5-year update, if we want to include that in fiscal year 25, that'll be something that we can add. There's the stadium renovations. The total is 3.4 million. We haven't expended all of it. I think at this point, probably what's been encumbered is 1.5 or
I think it's a little over 1.6.
1.6 million. So that'll be addressed, and the excess or the surplus will roll into fiscal year 25 on our plan. I just want to also remind you, previously we had it kind of broken down in the phases early on, and we had the 300,000 there. When we regrouped, we just put all the money into one general statement of Boone Stadium renovations and Crockett Stadium renovations, and those totals were 1.7 million for fiscal year 24. The rest of them are kind of, we're identified the next future fiscal years. Starting back at the top, you see the recurring payments. The trustee commission depends on the amount of revenue, so that's a percentage, so that can fluctuate some. But the Jonesboro payment, I will point out, we were told recently, or in the last few months, that we should expect an additional 250,000 going towards the Jonesboro payment. So actually, it will be adjusted to 2.75 million in the Jonesboro payment. That we were informed by the finance director of the county that was going to be an additional 250,000 a year.
Why is that?
We didn't get clear explanation. We were just told it was due to payment, and I think there was a reference. It just had to do with the schedule of payment. I don't have the exact details.
Well, they probably haven't told you, but will there be additional funding to come along with that?
I'm sure they want us, what I'm understanding is they're waiting to recommend and make any action until they see what we asked for.
I mean, I don't know that we could do it now, but in the future, could we ask for additional funding for school security upgrades in this, or is this just all fixed?
Well, assuming the number of pennies, and then of course there's going to be an adjustment of that penny rate at the top. You see, if you look along the very top where it says right under the year and the projected penny value, and annually it's automatically adjusted 0.75%, just annual growth. But fiscal year 25 right now is showing from last year's approved 5-year plan was $352,000 basically per penny value. It'll be different when they finalize the penny value. And also, if they maintain the revenue the same, so for 25 it's 5.992. If they maintain the revenue, that'll adjust the number of pennies based on how much the penny rate goes up. Or they won't. If they leave the pennies alone, I mean, if they didn't touch the number of pennies, that would be a revenue increase. But the likelihood that they're going to adjust is probably high. Mr. Kent.
So we're not using all of our bus money now, is that right? Because we're going down to the number of buses we need, or is that my understanding?
We're just, from our schedule that was created several years ago, we've adjusted as we went along. And you will see down the road, because apparently several years ago there was a large bus purchase,
yes,
or two years in a row, maybe even 3, and we're about to hit those. So 2 fiscal years down the road, the numbers will increase than what we are right now.
I didn't know if we could ask for that money to be transferred to transportation vans for our, our clubs and things to use.
We could, I mean, it always could be a conversation.
But that would just be a conversation, because we're all the time needing transportation for after-school activities constantly, and bus drivers are getting fewer and fewer.
Sure.
And so I just.
Well, I think we could. I mean, I think it would be reasonable for them to expect that it would be for student transportation only, and not start getting into the request of it being for you know, other fleet vehicles like for maintenance.
Right,
You know,
right.
so if it was specific to student transportation, I think it could just be a proposal that we request to expend those monies for buses.
I would like to,
I really think we done that about 3 years ago and bought some new vans.
well, we really, I think that's that's a conversation we need to have again.
I understand. And we have, and Brad's been able to maintain the transportation budget. We've scheduled those purchases in the transportation budget. But it could be a request. So to your point, we could, so this year we got approval for 870,000.
Yes.
We only used about 575,000.
Yes.
We could leave it at 870 and just say that we would also come with some requests to update our, you know, our activity buses or our activity vans for
Yes.
student activities. I mean, we
I'd
could
really-
include that as a request.
I mean, because if we're not gonna use the money, I don't wanna see it go away, but also
Well,
that is a need. I mean,
Yeah.
those after-school activities and those vans are a need for our students.
Right, and, you know, I guess theoretically it goes away, but it rolls over to the next fiscal year because the funds continues to, you know,
It
accumulate.
resets, does it not?
If it doesn't, if it goes into a fund balance and that rolls into the next year, so the total available money, if it's not expended, then it increases the total available funds because of that fund balance. But, you know, we could request that, certainly.
Ms. Armstrong.
Correct me if I'm wrong, the only way we can increase the amount in Social Security updates is if the county commissions raises the taxes and that we get a certain amount of pennies towards
In this
being able to
fund,
do this.
it's generated by a property tax and it has specific pennies. The penny rate amount will go up this year, but as I mentioned, what is likely to happen is they're going to reduce the number of pennies to maintain the same level of revenue. But they could leave the pennies where they're at, and that would increase the revenue to that fund. So yes, the only way to increase the revenue to this fund is through the property tax amount going to that fund.
Ms. Swain.
You're gonna turn this over to them here soon,
Yes, sir.
but can we put this back on like a retreat or whatever
Yes.
till we can, okay.
They're pushing, actually, they wanted tomorrow's budget. I'm just gonna give them an update. I mean, we're not in a position, we didn't get it approved by the commission last year until June. So there's more conversations that we need to, you know, finalize. And I can just make sure that they're fully aware of what the, you know, what the discussions are and what we're looking at. And we will present to them an approved 5-year, you know, capital plan for their consideration soon. But tomorrow it's just not going to be available.
Lamar needs to be on that list right there.
You go to the next slide. So these are just on our, you know, kind of our list, outside of the other things like the buses that we have kind of annually, the technology that we've identified, the playgrounds, the projects, the athletic projects we have going. This is other expenditures that we have on our capital improvement needs. What we have said is sooner than later, the Crockett Annex building need to have a roof replacement, and that's an estimated expenditure of $500,000 for fiscal year '25. We also had on last year's approved the Boots Creek boiler pump, I guess, update requirement. We had it at 120. We increased it. If we say in FY '25, it needs to be a little more because the cost of everything's gone up.
Why
he
is
was
the
just
roller
saying-
going
It's,
bad?
it's to add a second one, so if
Yeah.
the first one fails,
It's a
the other
redundant.
one's there to make it run.
But do we, and I'm just thinking out loud on that, if it's a 15-year boiler, would we not be, we're, what, 4 years into it? Would we be better off to wait a couple more years to where we're sliding one, you know what I'm saying, half life expectancy? I don't know if that's a good idea or not.
You know, I don't, it's recommended just because it needs some redundancy. That's why it's recommended.
Exactly.
I don't know if the timing and the warranty has any impact on that. I understand your thought there,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I mean, it probably could be deferred another year if we had to.
I mean, I know it's not getting any cheaper,
Right.
but at the same time, if you hit it kind of dead center of when the life expectancy was, it would maybe it's, you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
I understand. I don't have an answer for you. The big one, and to Mr. Irvin's comment that caused me to flip to this slide, we have put in, just as on the radar, the 2.7 million for Lamar based on the bid. Now, we all think that cost is way beyond what we believe it should be. But that's the target we used, realizing that we all hope that we can get that cost down and get the job done at some point soon. But we did put it under on our capital improvement needs list. Dr. Adams, has listed this at 2.7 million.
Well, and some of that's adjustable on the time frame for some of it. And when I talked with Philip, with the old JES, the renovation, the HVAC, and the demo, we decided we put it all together because we'd probably get a cheaper cost if we bid everything together, which is kind of what we did with the Lamar facade, knowing we needed the actual sheeting and the windows and the awnings to all be fixed. We figured if we put it all together, we'd have one company bid everything instead of piecemealing it, and hopefully the price would be lower. So we decided we would put the renovation for the old Jonesboro Elementary School all together. We'll ballparking that at about $4 million.
And that's one of my points, putting this on a retreat is, what are our plans for JES? You know, what,
Well, the board, certainly hadn't made, and I don't know that I've shared in detail what my thoughts are.
yeah.
But,
I just think it's a discussion we need to have to see, are we, do we, you know what I'm saying?
I think we all can agree, unless we go a different direction, with maintaining that property and that facility, and it certainly needs to be utilized. In order to utilize it, it's gonna need some renovation. Which includes a discussion about what to do with the front of the building and the round part.
I was really impressed with what the TCAT at Boones Creek had done with their taking that down and putting that.
I think that's a great model, and I know
It
all of
is,
you, as you
yeah.
walked through that, and if you had the chance to, they did a wonderful job. They utilized the space very well. They repurposed some space and made it, wonderful classroom learning areas, and office areas and commons areas. So, they did a great job with that building. And they're more or less mirror images. They're very close to one another, as you know.
In fact, the one over here has more classroom space.
Because it has that
right,
back.
the old shape.
Yeah. So yes, we need to get to the point, we create a vision of what that building needs to look like. Dr. Adams kind of listed in pulling out, so in the previous slide where we had FY25, we actually listed about $2 million to go towards renovation, and the 1.056 and 1.4, about 2.5 million to go to the Jonesboro renovation. But that is obviously premature, and it needs to be deferred down the road as we come to a decision on what it looks like. But to Dr. Adams' point, doing all of that at once, if you're going to have to update the HVAC and also the demo and the renovations, it's just all one big project.
I'd like to see us discuss that along with what we're going to do with the middle school, maybe in our next workshop. Put that on.
Well, maybe in our workshop, we can set a retreat date to go over all that if y'all want to.
Be nice.
Yes, that'd be appreciated, yes. I think the board will be allowed to just focus on that topic, the agreement we have and the properties we have to sell and the intent of the board on what to do, the next steps. That would be a good focus.
Before we have that workshop, though, I'd like to know some figures of what the property is worth, what it would cost to have it tore down, including maybe the round part of the elementary school. Because everybody here knows the elementary school is a, problem. So, but I'd like to know them figures before we
before our workshop.
My plan for the next workshop was to bring in not surveys of the land, but like property, give you the size and the layout of it on a big map, so we can kind of get an idea of what your thoughts are on what part specifically back by the elementary school we want to keep, if we're going to keep it, what the access road is going to look like, so that once we have that kind of in our head and drawn out, we can take it to a surveyor who can then break that up and give you options on how are we going to divide that land out in front of Jonesboro. If we sell it, are we going to subplot it, we're going to sell it all together, and so that we can make decisions on what that'll look like, so we can get it surveyed and do the same thing for the Midway property.
There's other discussions, and it's written in the agreement, you know, that the board maintains access rights behind the middle school and between the football for access to Forest, and then also all the way behind Bojangles. But we have to determine, you know, what's the line of the road. And then there's also a statement in some form or fashion that the board would give support in building that road, but we don't really know the details of what that looks like. So, more conversations and agreements, it sounds.
What's Holstone?
Going back to the security upgrades, we've got budgeted $3.5 million, correct? $3.5 million. We're going to
Currently,
use
that's
about 1.5 for the 2 high schools, so we've got $2 million, which is not enough based upon the bids we received to complete the rest of the project. What are we doing to try to get, does it have to come out of the county commission to let people know in the community that we need the extra money, that we're not just not going to pick and choose for the 8 schools to do and the other 4 we're not going to do? Or is that the way the board wants to go with it? I'm just looking at how we can get the extra money we need to improve that security in all of the schools.
Well, within the construct of the educational capital funds, just based on the penny rates, I mean, it can be put in there that even though they've approved the plan that showed 3.5 million, as we've gone into this, we could put in the 5-year plan another $1 million. But it would just have to, we'd have to make decisions on, okay, where would that come from? So some of these projects would slide out, and we would replace it with whatever the amount would be for the additional cost of to complete all of the projects.
Sounds like it'd be comical to just go ahead and add 250 more what they owe us to put in the capital improvement project, since all of a sudden we're going to have to pay 250 more for something.
You know, again, it goes back to what they set the penny rate at, and based on the valuations that they're going to land on, of how much a penny will be worth, and then what the revenue will generate. So it could be that they set it at a rate that they increase available revenue for us, and then we can say we want to apply that to security upgrades.
But what money we don't use of the capital projects, of the, you know, Boone and Crockett's money, that's gonna come out, and then what's left of the 3.5 that's there will carry over to the next year.
Right.
So
That'd be
that
just approximately
1.5 would turn into 3 million more, because what's left carries back over. So we'd have 2025, we should have $3 million, or whatever's left is double, right?
No, it won't double. It's a fixed amount, so we would not have that same amount available. We would just carry forward the unexpended amount. So to Mr. Huddlestone's point, if say it was encumbered, I mean, say we spent the 1.5 right now, that would drop that total amount to the $2 million.
That'd be
And
what's
that's all
left.
that would be available.
But that, for the next year, it's supposed to carry over. And it
Just
would
the
still be,
remaining balance carries over, not the repeat of the 2.5 million.
they would be $2 million, just roughly $2 million
Yes.
left.
Unexpended and
Yeah.
rollover, yes, sir.
And it would roll over to another $2 million that was there, because that penny has generated again. You see what I'm saying?
But it was not accounted for in that expenditure, so to your point, it's in that 5.99 million that the penny generated based on the current penny rate. It's if the board decides to put another $2 million in there, then it would be 2 million plus the balance carryover, it'd be 4 million. Every year, the money rolls over, but how it's expended, that's why the county commission asks for an updated 5-year plan every year. If there's any adjustments that need to be made in the upcoming fiscal year and thereafter. And so the revenue's there, we decide what we're gonna request to stay within the amount of that revenue.
Well,
It's not automatic that it rolls into automatically another $3.5 million.
Yeah, I know it wouldn't do that because we spent some of it,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
but what was left
Right, just
would-
rolls over.
would roll over into another,
Yes,
what
sir.
was left.
Right, and it would add to the fund balance, and we can then take what the fund balance is plus the generated revenue, which again, for that fiscal year is 5.99. And the board can determine that we're gonna, to Mr. Huddlestone's point, we need to say, we realize it's gonna cost more, so we're gonna add in that available revenue, target another 2 million or whatever it would be. So then it would be 2 million balance rolled over plus whatever the board says we're gonna put in the fiscal year plan for expending another million, 2 million, 3 million, whatever it is for that particular project. But to your point, yes, the money goes in fund balance and it does roll over, and then the penny generates another almost $6 million. But we've already kind
But
of
we've
planned
already
out and
spent
mapped
it,
out.
we've already
Yes.
spent it. I'm just
We've
going
committed
on
it.
what is left.
Mhm.
That's the way I'm a figure.
Could you go back to the other slide? So at the bottom, you'll see projected fund balance. So in those numbers at the bottom, assume that in that fiscal year 2024, you see at the bottom that it's $805,000 would be the projected fund balance if we expended every dollar that we have in the approved plan on 2024. So only if we expended everything, only $805,000 would roll into, be added to the revenue generated for fiscal year 25, which is 5.992 million. So then that would be available to spend in that year, would be almost $7 million, would be 6.8. So, but then you see we've listed in that plan some other expenditures, even though they're likely to change. If we were to expend everything there in FY25, you see the fund balance would be down to 183,000 without additional revenue. But that's only if we expended every penny that's been planned. And I will say, in last year's approval, at least one commissioner that's on the budget committee had a question and concern about the fund balance, our scheduled fund balance, getting that low if we carried out the plan exactly to 183,000. When we pointed out, well, that was because that was a heavy need that year. And then looked that at that point in time, we didn't have any additional revenues other than what's listed for 2026, and it rebuilt the fund balance to 2.4 million based on the recurring revenue. So you know, it's an up and down cycle, but it does get adjusted every year. That's why we have to take it to them and get an approved 5-year plan. Plus, needs do change even within a year sometimes. One more time going back to, and this is this, if you notice the bottom, there's some pretty high numbers, but these are really, you know, these are needs based on talking to maintenance and transportation. No, we're not at that point at all.
Okay, I was,
No, ma'am, we're not about the workshop. These items are not, or could be incorporated into our updated 5-year plan that we take to the commission, but as you can see, there's some large dollar items. The FY27, of course, that includes two large things, two large items. The, just the renovations, although we know we have some details and answers and decisions to make. But we also put in $2.5 million for what we're categorizing as land improvements, and these are things like paving and sidewalks that just need some major capital improvements at the high schools. You know, the parking lots are big, They also are in need of some attention, some sidewalks and things like that. That's a large estimated cost, but I think it's unfortunately realistic at $2.5 million. So that's why that's an $8.1 million total that particular year. It's just for awareness. I don't, you know, we could put it in the plan and say we need this much more revenue, or just FYI, this is the needs we have, and this estimated cost is $8.1 million in this particular fiscal year. As you can see, you know, as we carry through, there's some HVAC upgrades that are scheduled out in FY28 and FY29. The roof, the major project on the Crockett main building, you know, a roof replacement just like we completed on Boone. It's time for a roof replacement in Crockett. So that's coming up in the next, you know, FY29 probably is the latest that we can defer that. And you see the HVAC for Gray. And then the bus schedule at the bottom. You see the adjusted bus schedule. We're looking at next year to include $450,000, but like I said, we could leave the amount at $870,000 with the idea that we also have some activity transportation needs for students that we would include in that request. And then you see each year, because we're getting to that point where those large purchases and buses are going out of service, that the amount goes up. And that's as it's scheduled now. Now, if we identify more efficiencies and we don't maybe need to buy 12 buses, you know, in 4 years, it might just be 9. I mean, it could adjust, but we're planning for what we believe right now is the schedule based on what's going out of service. And so you see that for each of the fiscal years, the increasing cost of buses.
Looking at the 3 buses, 2 big and 1 small, is there any reason why it's not, why is it 450 rather than 420?
We put a little cushion in there thinking the cost is going to go up. That's based on last year's costs, so we put a little bit in there. And, I mean, we can adjust it back down. I think the rest are built on the 160 and 100. That was a previous number, but then as I started building it out, we just went back to the 160 and 100 for each bus.
You know, I think we should have a note, and when we're final, we should notate that we've seen an increase in buses, so these numbers are subject to increase over time because that's what we've seen.
Exactly. 7 years ago, a big bus was about $80,000.
And by our definition, a big bus is a 66 passenger.
66 passenger.
Yeah. By others, it's a little larger and more costly.
Doubled in price.
Just about.
When I first went on the board, they was $68,000. 2006.
Should have bought more, kept them in storage.
Good. They start their time when you buy them.
Yeah, it's years or mileage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or years and mileage in some cases. But those are kind of the high priority capital needs that have been identified, and the board could, you know, you all could even have some thoughts about some other items. I mean, you know, Mr. Osto's comment about the increasing possibly for the safety, security enhancements, the entry upgrades a certain amount because we're seeing the increase in cost. We also would like to, maybe that's not captured here, like we did this year, we used school technology and we transformed that into security. We might want to add another category and add school technology, and that is specific to the refresh of the laptops and then school technology security. So we continue to improve our technology in our schools for the surveillance and those kinds of things. Because we all, you know, we identify areas at times that we need to add cameras. We need to maybe even expand it to areas that wasn't covered in as good as it should be. And then there's things about external, the perimeter, that I would also say we could evaluate to add as well for safety and security technologies. So that's just another item that's not captured here.
Okay, we'll put this on the workshop for the 28th, and then we'll schedule a retreat just for this.
So, yeah, tomorrow's budget meeting, I mean, we'll certainly address the school nutrition budget that was approved and take it to them. I will share this information with them, the thought process and the timeline that we're looking at to bring it back to them for full consideration.
Could you go ahead, and you may have already done this, but would you convey to them the possible need that we're gonna have for more money for safety?
Yes.
That we're headed down that road, just so they're aware of it. And
Yeah, I will, and I anticipate at least one commissioner reminded me that he asked, is the board gonna, is this enough? And, I mean, I'll navigate that conversation.
Instead
they'll
of,
just have to look back on the Boones Creek Athletic Facility as a good rule of thumb on how much more it goes up over
we're
time.
spent
Yeah,
for
I understand.
stadium
I
renovation
understand.
instead of safety.
Right, I understand.
They will pour that to us.
Yes, sir. I agree.
Okay, just a few dates to remember before we adjourn. May 9th is a Teacher of the Year at 6 at Grace Meadows. May 18th, graduation, families, central office here at 8 a.m. if you're riding. And then our workshop for May 28th at 5 p.m. Ms. Walton?
With this being the last board meeting of the school year, I know we're gonna get together for workshop after graduation and things, but I just wanna praise God for what He has done for us this year, for us and through us. And I wanna thank you all for your service, sitting here at this table, making hard decisions every time we're together, that can affect generation after generation. And I just thank the world of you all. I want to say thank you, and thank you for letting me just be a small part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just as a reminder, we should have started our meeting with this as in the announcements. I apologize. You're probably aware this week is National Teacher Appreciation Week. And of course, I think every day should be Teacher Appreciation Day. But just specifically, this is recognized as National Teacher Appreciation Week. And also school nursing, nursing, not just school nursing, but nurses appreciation as well. But we certainly want to thank all the teachers and everyone that supports our teachers every day in our schools and across the district. Our teachers do amazing things. They impact the lives of children every day, and we're certainly all thankful for them, and they never get enough credit.
And they deserve.
Are you
the
planning
thank
on
you.
sending out an email or something to all the teachers as a thank you?
I have each year.
That's what I thought, but are there a way that us as a board could send something out, or can we tag along onto your?
Well, sure. I'm sure a lot of people assume that. I know in the past, I know a couple of board members, Mr. Fleener, one of them, would send me an email and I would just forward it out to all of the teachers, just forward his email on behalf of Mr. Fleener and share with the teachers. If you want to do that, if you have if you want me to compile any just comments that you want to make directly to our teachers, and I can put it in one email and I can send it out for the board if you would like.
Well, I'd just like to thank them. That's the most important thing. Appreciate everything they've done for Washington County school system.
Or I could certainly make a statement that it comes from me and on behalf of the Board of Education, the Washington County Board of Education, and each board member that serves. I can do that as well. That'd probably be.
I'd appreciate it on my behalf.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not excellent.
Articulate.
I'm not a.
Yes, you are, Keith.
But they got 4 legs and 4 tits. I can't do nothing with it. So that's all I got to say.
Motion to.
All right, we need to adjourn. Meeting adjourned.